Everything Hollywood taught you about Viking warfare is completely wrong. Forget the massive battles, the berserkers running naked into combat, and the complete lack of strategy you see in movies. Real Viking combat was methodical, disciplined, and absolutely terrifying for reasons that have nothing to do with screaming and swinging axes wildly. Today we're breaking down how Vikings actually fought, and why their real tactics were far more effective than anything you've seen on screen. The foundation of Viking warfare wasn't individual heroics, it was the shield wall. Vikings would lock their round shields together, creating an impenetrable barrier that could advance slowly while protecting the entire unit. Behind this wall, they used spears, not axes, as their primary weapon. Spears were cheaper to make, had longer reach, and could thrust between shield gaps without breaking formation. The shield wall required incredible discipline and training. One person breaking formation could collapse the entire line. Vikings practiced this formation constantly, because their lives depended on trusting the warrior next to them. Movies show Vikings running around individually, but real Vikings fought as a coordinated unit that moved like a single organism. Hollywood Vikings wear leather and fur while swinging massive two-handed axes. Real Vikings wore chainmail when they could afford it, and their primary weapons were spears, swords, and smaller one-handed axes. The iconic Viking sword was a status symbol, expensive and deadly, but not the primary battlefield weapon. Most Vikings carried a spear, a shield, a seax, large knife, and maybe a hand axe for close combat. Those massive two-handed axes you see in movies? They existed, but were specialized weapons used primarily for executions, not battlefield combat. Real Viking armor was practical, chainmail, leather, and padded cloth that allowed movement while providing protection against slashing attacks. The berserker myth is probably the biggest misconception about Vikings. Movies show them as drug-fueled maniacs who felt no pain and fought naked. The reality was more complex. Berserkers were elite warriors who worked themselves into a psychological state before battle, possibly through ritualistic preparation, meditation, or yes, sometimes mind-altering substances. But they didn't fight naked or abandon all tactics. Archaeological evidence suggests berserkers wore bear or wolf skins as psychological warfare, to terrify enemies before combat even began. They were shock troops used at specific moments in battle, not the chaotic maniacs of popular culture. Real berserkers were disciplined warriors who channeled controlled aggression, not uncontrolled rage. Vikings' real advantage wasn't land combat, it was their ships. Viking longships could sail in just 3 feet of water, allowing them to appear anywhere along a coastline without warning. They perfected the art of amphibious assault 1,000 years before D-Day. Their ships could be carried overland between rivers, giving them mobility that no other medieval force could match. Viking raids were successful because they could strike fast, load treasure, and disappear before defenders could organize a response. The longship was their secret weapon. It allowed 30 to 50 warriors to appear suddenly, raid, and vanish like ghosts. Vikings understood that winning battles starts before the fighting begins. They used psychological warfare extensively, war cries, intimidating appearance, and brutal reputation that preceded them. The famous blood eagle execution method wasn't just cruelty, it was calculated psychological warfare designed to terrify future enemies into surrendering without fighting. Vikings deliberately cultivated their savage reputation because it made their job easier. Many towns surrendered immediately when Viking ships appeared, preferring to pay tribute rather than face the legendary Norse warriors in combat. This reputation was carefully managed. Vikings were actually quite capable of diplomacy and trade when violence wasn't necessary. So there's the reality of Viking warfare: disciplined shield walls, practical weapons, calculated psychological warfare, and naval superiority that gave them mobility no other medieval force could match. Hollywood Vikings are entertaining, but real Vikings were far more sophisticated and effective than movies suggest. They conquered and colonized territory from Greenland to Russia not through mindless violence, but through superior tactics, technology, and strategic thinking. What other historical warrior myths would you like me to debunk? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more real history that's actually more interesting than the fiction.